My mom, my dad, they weren't. No cowboys, no buckaroos. My grandpa, on my mom's side, he was from Ukiah, California, and I remember his one thing he told me about rodeo. He said they say it wrong. He said the proper term for rodeo is rodeo.
Yep.
And he was very strict about that. And I always remembered that. And then somewhere in my life I heard it again. I was like, hey, my grandpa was right.
Yep.
You know, rodeo, to hold them up. And just a little information about that. I've went to boarding school. That's where I was exposed to cowboys. You know, high school, Montana kids, South Dakota kids, Wyoming. They come out of the big reservations, and everything was rodeo and bull riders and team roping and steer bulldogging and all like that. And the girls, all they would talk about was the bull riders. So
you want to be?
Yeah, I wanted to be a bull rider. And it got in. And anyhow, a friend of mine, his name was Dion Longknife. He was from the Grovant tribe in Montana, and he was always playing with a rope. He'd always be doing tricks and roping things, and he made it look good, made it look pretty, and I seen that, and I was like, hey, I want to learn how to rope. And I'd been fiddling with rope since I was a little kid, but you know, I didn't know nothing about it. Didn't know how to trap a cow, or didn't know how to rope a cow, period. You know, maybe rope a hog. But Dion showed me, you know, how to do the butterfly, ocean wave, and you know, how to set a trap and things like that. And you don't learn how to be a cowboy roping kids or dogs or anything like that. But when I was 16 years old, I was in Schurz, Nevada, and there's all these cowboys, and they put me on this horse. And anyway, these cowboys chased this big cow all the way around the mountain, and they all missed her. They couldn't rope her. Down they run her right by me. And how green I was is they said, rope her. She come right by. I hung it on her. And they said, dally, dally, dally. And I was like, what's dally? And there goes my rope. So that's what I knew about cowboying. You know, that was the very first time I roped a cow. I was 16 years old. But I got...
So you come back from Montana and whatnot, in your kind of mid-teens then? And then
well, I started. Well, the boarding school system was in Salem, Oregon. It's a government residential school for Indians, and it was in Salem, Oregon, and that's where all of the kids met from Montana, South Dakota, Wyoming, what have you. And then I did 1 year there, and then I did 4 years down in Sherman Indian School, which is in Riverside, California, and those are all Arizona tribes, and they're all big, you know, ranching, agriculture, especially Navajo Nation. You know, that's all they do is rodeo. Yep. They raise cattle and horses. I don't know what they eat because there's nothing there on that reservation. But nevertheless, you know, I've never seen a people that is so hardy as those. There's no water, there's no feed, but they manage to take care of and maintain a lifestyle that we all know, ranching and rodeo and things like that, bull riding and whatever. But Apaches, Pimas, Papagos, all the same way. Havasupais down in the Grand Canyon, they do that. So the Utes up there in Colorado. But being...
Well, they've had a little time to figure it out.
Yeah.
Been there for
time and millennium.
Years,
yeah. But being around those people, it exposed me to... cowboy life, I guess, native life in that aspect, because we have to live with each other, you know, we all have to get along, and of course we're going to school and things like that. So I climbed on a few bulls down there in Riverside, California, and I met a friend of mine. He worked at a Western store. I was a state brand inspector, and that'd been the first time I ever heard the word buckaroo. He goes, where are you from? I said, I'm from Northern California, Eastern Nevada. And he says, there's a lot of good buckaroos up there, huh? And I was like, what's a buckaroo, you know? And I was like, this is a new word, this is a new term. Is cowboy? You know, yeah, everyone's heard of cowboys. Well, anyway, he got me a job there at the local Western store there at the mall, and then he got me a job at the San Encino Stockyards, and that'd been my first time being around livestock or anything like that way. I'm 17 years old, and it's just like, man, I'm a cowboy, but I'm doing it on foot, you know, being this Mexican guy. It was, you know, and it's you know, just being part of that smell, the manure, the water, all that, you know, how it is at a ranch. I guess it gets on you, or however you want to, and you
It gets on you.
yeah, and you really want to, you know, I guess that was the start of it, you know. And then when I came back from boarding school, I got with a girl from McDermott, and her dads and brothers were Buckaroos, and anyway, I didn't even know what they said. We're going Buckaroo, and I'm like, Buckaroo, and I remember that word Buckaroo, but Buckarooing is like cowboying. We're going cowboying. Oh, hey, I want to go. I was all about it, you know.
Sign me up. What is it, huh?
Yeah, we were working horses in Jacomettos, which is on the west side of the reservation, and they parted out all their colts, and we had to take all them colts and horses up to the mountains. Everybody took their horses. There's, like you said, like 15, 20 guys, you know, in every family's herd. They were going up with them, and you know, I just happened to be part of that and follow them up. And man, we rode until the sun went down, and we didn't get home till like 10 o'clock that night. And of course, my, you know, hiney was pretty sore, but man, I was part of it. It just felt so good. Got to see some country, you know, got to experience things, and being around all them Paiute Buckaroos there, you know, some of them, they're just res guys, you know, wear a ball cap and look like a team roper. But that was my first exposure to being around Buckaroos. They were, when we were running them horses, man, that was fun. They were roping them and branding right there on the spot and cutting, and it was something to see.
So then you got to roping around McDermott, and then McDermott and Waihee really has a lot of connections and relatives and whatnot. So I guess you got hooked up at Waihee, because that's where you live now.
Yeah, I currently reside in Waihee. So when I was about 18, I went to Elko, and well, let me step back. I ended up going to Paradise Valley. There's a guy out there, Buckingham.
Yeah.
I can't remember his first name right now. But anyhow, he put me to work for a couple of days, kind of like day work, I guess. I didn't even know what day work was. Anyway, helped him move some cows and stuff like that. And he goes, well, I don't really need you full time, but what do you want to do? And he goes, you want a buckaroo? And I said, yeah, you know, and I didn't really know what I was saying. And he said, well, he says, I'll drop you off at Kenny Tipton's in Winnemucca. And I talked to Kenny Tipton, and Kenny said to call Merv Takis. And for whatever reason, unknown, I never did call Merv. But I ended up going into Elko. I went to
Merv was the cow boss at Squaw Valley for Ellison Ranching.
Yes.
Which is kind of northeast of Winnemucca, I guess is an easy way to say it. So anyway, you went to Elko.
Yeah, I went into Elko. I went to Capriola's, and I met Doug Wright. And I was just kind of hanging around there a few days, and with a friend of mine. And then anyway, Doug says, he goes, there's an opening at the IL. He said, I think they're looking for somebody right now. He said, and I said, where's that at? He said, well, it's just north of here. And he said, you ever heard of Bill Maupin? And I said, no, but I'll call you. I'll call him. And he called him for me, and I talked to Bill, and I remember Bill's words. He says, do you have a bedroll? And I said, no. And he says, you have a shoeing outfit? And I said, no. And he said, well, I can sell you one. He said, and he says, just put some blankets together, and you won't need a bedroll anyway. We're in the bunkhouse now. We're off the desert. And I didn't even understand that term, you know. Can you shoe a horse? I thought I knew how, you know. Very crude. Snaffle, you got a snaffle bit? And I said, yeah, I can get one. And actually the guys at Capriola's helped me put together a head stall out of Latigo. It was all riveted together, and it was a pony snaffle bit because it was the cheapest one I could find, you know. And a set of slobber straps made out of that same Latigo leather that the head stall was made out of, and a really bright blue nylon McCarty that we cut out of, you know, out of them rolls of, yeah, and that's what I had, you know. and I had a cheap saddle, like a Textan or something, you know, and I just wonder what I looked like when I showed up at that ranch. Had long hair. But Reggie Soap, there was a powwow going on there in Elko, and Reggie Soap was there singing, and Reggie, he goes, him and I kind of hit it off for some reason, and I told him, I said, I got a job at the IL. He goes, oh, I know where that's at, I'll take you over there. Well, for 2 days he was going to take me over there, but we just go to Wahi and we go back to the powwow. And he goes, oh, don't worry about it, they'll wait on you. I was like, you know, when you go for a job, I thought right now, you know, you got to be there right now. And so anyway, Reggie, he drove by there on that back road, and anyways, so I stayed with Reggie for a couple of days, and then maybe it was Monday morning, we drove out there, and they were processing cattle, and showed up and shook hands.
This was in the fall.
Yeah, it was been in October. Yeah, it was in October, because I turned 20 there at the IL. I was 19, and anyway, I remember when we were processing, Bill goes, James, he says, some of these we need to read their tattoos or something in their ear, and I didn't know what. Anyway, he said, grab their head and, you know, jerk them around. These are those kind of half Bremer cross that they used to have there years ago, and man, I'll tell you what, I got flung way out there, and it got beat up pretty good, but I didn't know any better, you know. Heck, I was living it and being part of it, and it was the coolest thing. And even we branded a bunch of cattle, and also Woody Harney shows up there a week later. Everybody knows Woody, but you know, being as he was a native, and I thought I could connect to him. Well, turns out, you know, he doesn't like to be connected to anybody. So, anyways, you know, I got to talking to him, but it was always, you know, there was always that standoffish part. It's the cowboy part. You know, you don't get too close to anybody, or however it is. I mean, I'm a social person. I like to talk to everybody. But anyhow, I remember watching Woody rope in that branding trap, and I was like, man, that's cool, you know. And that style that the Buckaroos have, the floating loops and big loop, you know, and just looks real nice. The way they handle their horses, I didn't know how to handle a horse. I don't know nothing about any of that snaffle bit, hackamore, or spade bit, or any of that, you know. But when I found out, started keying in on things, then that's what I wanted to do. That's what I wanted to be part of. And I got lucky, I guess, to see some good horsemanship, see some good roping. And that's my favorite part, is roping. I just love the roping part of it, you know. I know we've talked about it many times, you and I. I mean, like Ernie Morris, the artist, you know, he in his book, he says, anybody could ride up to a cow and put their rope on them. But it takes someone, you know, with distance and length and timing and precision and a nice broke horse, and everything comes together, and it's so beautiful, you know. And you know, that's it makes a man feel good that's watching it. It makes a man feel good that's doing it, and anybody that's involved in it, they know they're watching something good, something great, you know.
That's what I tell people in these schools is roping and catching is one thing, but handling it, you know, that takes more stockmanship. Well, even setting the shot up takes some stockmanship and horsemanship, but to me, that's what really makes the difference between something being real smooth and just getting the job done is the stockmanship and the horsemanship and the rope handling skills, the dallying, not just the throwing the loop, but it's a lot bigger picture than just hanging it on something.
Yeah.
You know, in my opinion. But that's a fun thing about watching some of the people in this area is, you know, I've been around. I'm not talking rodeo ropers, but outside ropers. This area right here has got as many good ropers, smooth ropers, riding good horses and handling cattle smooth and everything as any place I've ever seen. It's pretty cool to watch some of these ropings, watch some of these brandings.